Right, guys, on to key topic three, and we're going to start with education and leisure. Right, for these kind of questions, it will normally be about explaining, you know, Elizabethan pastimes or explaining, the education process in Elizabethan England, but sometimes it might be comparing the rich versus the poor and the different types of education and activities they did. Okay, so think about those when we're going through this. Okay, again, that's a graphic I'm not going to go through. You can pause and read that for yourself. Um, again, highlights quite nicely the gender differences and the societal differences between in Elizabethan England. Okay, so importantly in this one, education is starting to be seen as more valuable. Remember, this is the age of the Reformation, so now with the rise of Protestantism, people are starting to look to reading. With the rise of things like the printing press, more written stuff is available, so more people have a reason to learn to read and educate themselves. And also you've got the rise of humanism, which is important to moving away from the church to explain things. So this leads to more of a focus on education. Yeah, that's kind of what I've just gone through. And the rise of the merchant classes, right? So the merchants in the cities, they want their people to be able to read ledgers and make business contracts. So they need to read and write. So there's a lot more of a focus for why you need these schools. But it is limited to kind of your place in the hierarchy. Peasants won't get much of an education at all. So nobility, languages is a focus on them. Girls need to behave like a noblewoman, so there's music, dancing, needlework. Nobles are tutored at home. Boys and girls separate. Boys are taught archery, horse riding, fencing, swimming, things that will make them a leader and a fighter for war. Children were sent to other nobles' houses to finish their education. This is politically quite important, to build an alliance with another noble. Have your son to be tutored. Used to be squired earlier on, but to be tutored in another noble's house. So, education again was provided for the children of the wealthy. Literacy rates are increasing, as I said before. Schooling was at home and then continued through things like petty schools, grammar schools, university. So the main form of school is the petty school, again providing education in the petty and grammar schools since the age of 5. Very formal. Lessons would be focused on reading and writing Latin, the Bible, its histories. See, history really important even back then. At 14, children could progress to university, where they'd specialise in subjects. You've got the Dame schools, so these are for between 5 and 7, run by a local housewife. So they're for girls. You'd cover the basics of the English language, principles of the church. The Petty and the Dame schools taught children about behaviour. Um, Again, important because of the religious settlement. They weren't free to attend, but the fees were quite small. They could be funded by things like guilds. So that with the merchant class rising, there was more of a fund into education. This was in part because, again, the traders wanted the next generation to be educated in this way. So the grammar schools, again, the greatest development in education came from the grammar schools. 42 were founded in 1560s, 30 more in the 1570s. There were now more schools in Elizabethan England than ever before. Previously, it had been the church that provided minimal education. Some grammar schools ran different curriculums for merchantmen and craftsmen, focusing on practical subjects such as English, writing, maths, geography. Yeah, geography even back then. Grammar schools, there were private schools set up for boys, considered bright and came from well-off families. Girls could not attend as they were educated at home by their mothers to prepare them for married life. And these were based on basically how much the boys' family owned. But promising lower class boys they could join free of charge. The school year was long and would focus on classics, history, philosophy, alongside like sporting activities as well. So the curriculum, so learning was strict in these schools, normally around 6, ended at 5. Many of these grammar schools, pupils were expected to speak Latin rather than English. Punishments for lateness, speaking English not concentrating were common. These punishments included the use of the cane. That's just a graphic for you to have a look at. Look at the kind of curriculum they had. University, so Oxford and Cambridge being the big ones. You start at 14 with the highest qualification being a doctorate. The Tudors set up these colleges as well. Elizabeth wanted their colleges to educate more Protestant clergymen. The Inns Court in London, these trained lawyers. Okay, so that was a run through the schools. Now we're going to have a look at the leisure. So, noble and gentry. Jousting was a noble sport requiring you and your opponent to charge at each other atop horseback and a lance. You've got to be quite rich because you need to own the equipment and own the horse. Noble sports would be things like hunting on horseback with hounds, hawking, fishing, fencing, real tennis. Fencing was important, again, form of sword play. Nobles especially quite like this, to show your prowess. Again, you have to be quite rich to fence because swords are expensive. Common people wouldn't really have a sword. You'd normally have a club. Football. So football was a good one for the lower class game. Working man's sport, football. Very violent back then. People could die. It would last for hours. You'd kick a ball in the goal, but the goals could be different size. You could pick up the ball. You could have any number of players. You could trip opponents. The pitch could be any size. Sometimes the match would be village against village. There'd be no set positions or anything like that. So football really important back then. Baiting, right? So most of the stuff is going to be about bear baiting or bull baiting. The reason for this is, and the reason why it's popular for all classes, is because you can bet on it. People love to gamble. So bear baiting. The bear would be chained to a post and attacked by dogs. The bear's teeth were broken, so they could not bite the dogs, but many dogs would die still. Care was taken not to kill the bear as they were expensive. Bear baiting was popular. Special arenas were built for them. The bull baiting, again, quite similar. Bull baiting also popular. Most towns had a bull ring. Bulls were neither rare nor expensive, so the fight was to the death. You could easily lose a bull. You don't want to lose a bear because hard to get one. But again, think about these different types of sports and different types of people who used them and why they were popular, why they were common. Cockfighting, a popular one for past students. So like baiting, all classes enjoyed the sport as they could bet on it. Okay. Cockerels are very aggressive. They normally wear like a metal spur, right, and slash at the other cockerel. Many towns had these arenas for cockfighting, but Puritans didn't really like them. They felt it was cruel. Literature, as you probably guess, is more for the upper class who could read. But new literature appeared during this time, very popular. You had the classics, Canterbury Tales. You needed to read and write though. Theatre was booming in this period, really because of Protestantism. Mystery plays were popular at the start of Elizabeth's reign, most common form of theatre. Plays brought to life Bible and saint stories. The plays kept the saints part, which was part of the Catholicism, in the public imagination. So some Protestants didn't like it. Elizabeth's government would put a stop to them. Secular, so secular means non-religious. These were popular because the ending would be unknown. The previous Bible stories, everyone kind of knew what they were. These new, exciting, kind of secular, not linked to religion stories, people were amazed because they didn't know what the outcome would be. Companies start to pop up. The Earl of Leicester actually had one called Leicester's Men, and the Queen had one called the Queen's Men. So again, really, you got a lot of evidence there you can bulk up a paragraph with. So do make notes on that. You had theatres that were constructed due to this popularity. First being the Red Lion. The theatre was popular with all classes. It would attract big crowds, but only men could act. Women weren't allowed, so men would play the position of women. You could pay a penny to stand in the arena. Stand in the pit at the bottom. But seats were more expensive because they're above the stage. So again, it's a great one to show the lower class at the bottom, upper class at the top. And music and dancing. So all classes like music, with many playing instruments. The more expensive instrument would be played by the nobles. Bagpipes and fiddles were the poor man's instrument. Listening to music was popular. Wealthy families employed musicians for live performances, whereas lower classes, you would go to the marketplace or a fair or even a tavern. There was music in church, taverns, barber shops, the streets. So again, it was available for most people. So think about these questions. Is it for the poor, the rich, or what would be the most common form of entertainment? You need to be thinking about these questions as you're revising this. And dancing was very popular, but classes did not dance together, obviously. Different dances for different classes. Right, that's a run through the first part of key topic 3. Again, hope you found it useful.